Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Saturday's show. What's this? DC Films' Walter Hamada was on the brink of exit after Batgirl cancellation. What did he do? Realised he was going to get sacked in October and changed his mind. We will get into these details. Walter Hamada isn't the only problem. He's just the ingredient of the problem. Snyder was the problem. Johns and Berg were the problem, and Hamada was also the problem. We started off with an auteur director in Christopher Nolan putting the pieces of this universe together. Mistake. He brings a similar like-minded auteur in Snyder. That's a mistake. That's not how you set up a commercial franchise. David Zaslav has spoken about protecting the DC brand. Is Superman snapping Zod's neck protecting the DC brand? No. Is Batman branding criminals protecting the DC brand? No. Is hacking Henry Cavill's Superman's upper lip protecting the DC brand with a rushed, rewritten and reshot version of the same Justice League movie? No, it's not. None of the decisions since 2013 have been protecting the DC brand. And if I was this business manager, David Zaslav, I would be getting an axe and I'd be knocking the whole thing down. You can't connect the future with the past because none of it has worked. And I stand as someone who enjoys Snyder's DCEU movies as pieces of art. But as a commercial franchise, no way is this protecting the DC brand. Is Wonder Woman 84 protecting the DC brand? Is Birds of Prey protecting the DC brand? No, no, no. None of this is protecting the DC brand. It's been a mess from day one. It's been a very interesting week for us DC fans, where this business manager, David Zaslav, has been, very, very resolute in saying, I will protect the DC brand. I'm going to make some very hard decisions for DC and its future. I'm going to make some very tough decisions for Warner Brothers Pictures because I have to. I have to tell you, regrettably, the previous leadership has put us on the brink of bankruptcy. I'm going to make some very, very tough decisions. I'm going to have to cancel a Batgirl movie. What does the Batgirl cancellation mean for Blue Beetle as well? Excuse me. What does it mean for Blue Beetle? It doesn't put Blue Beetle in a very good position, because if he's willing to cancel Batgirl, he's willing to cancel Blue Beetle. It depends what kind of a movie it is, and if he feels it's worthy of the DC brand, because that's going cinematically. Was it a David Zaslav decision to move it from HBO Max to cinema? So that film could be safe. So since 2013, the DC brand has not been protected. So David Zaslav is now kind of the enemy of the people. I've been going through my Twitter timeline ever since Batgirl has been cancelled, and I've heard the mob, the woke mob, being so offended by the cancellation of a film starring a Hispanic lead and a transgender character or actor. So offended. The people screaming about this cancellation are not DC fans. They had no intention of watching this movie. Anyway, let's get the details of Walter Hamada threatening to quit after his Batgirl movie was cancelled. So, DC Films' Walter Hamada was on the brink of exit after Batgirl cancellation. The executive has agreed to remain in his post at least until October the 21st release of Dwayne Johnson's film Black Adam. If that film actually gets released on October the 21st, we will see. This is by Kim Masters of The Hollywood Reporter. Amid the shelving of the HBO Max film Batgirl and the clear desire of Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav to find new leadership for the DC Universe, DC Films president Walter Hamada has come to the verge of exiting the studio and consulted with counsel, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. Hamada has now agreed to remain in his post at least until October the 21st release of Dwayne Johnson's film Black Adam. According to sources with knowledge of the situation, he's pausing, says a source. The decision has not been made to make this this adversarial yet. Hamada could not be reached for comment. Hamada hasn't been able to be reached since Ray Fisher exposed him. How can you have a DC film president who doesn't communicate with his consumer? He's not in charge of anything now. So at some point, he's going to go. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't even announce his exit. We had a Q2 investors call. Hamada's name wasn't mentioned once. Zaslav sees this man as a non-entity. The tension comes as Zaslav has vowed to do what he has called a reset with respect to DC. With a 10-year plan, he hopes will allow the brand to compete with Disney-owned Marvel Studios, which has built the biggest film franchise in history. We think we can build a much stronger, sustainable growth business out of DC, Zaslav said during Thursday's earnings call. As part of that, we are going to focus on quality. We are not going to release any film before it's ready. DC is something we can make better. And isn't it interesting? He doesn't seem to think Black Adam, the Flash movie, or Shazam! Fury of the Gods are ready for release, even though they do have release dates. It'll be interesting which movies need extensive reshoots in his eyes and which don't. An insider says Warner Brothers Pictures Group co-chairperson and CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pam Abby, who are overseeing DC until Zaslav settles on new leadership, informed Hamada at a recent Black Adam test screening that Batgirl, a $90 million film that was in post-production, would be shelved. The explanation that was given, Zaslav's strategy. The picture wasn't strong enough to release theatrically and was too expensive for a streaming release. The company, under pressure to cut costs, elected to take a write-down on the project. And this is what happens. You know, previous leaderships have run this company to the ground financially, and this new leadership's come in. And you have to be honest with Wall Street when new ownership comes in. You have to tell them the state of your company. And the company financially is in meltdown. They're looking for $3 billion in cost cuts. That tells you how much trouble they're in. People are losing their shit because he's not going to be doing as much animation. All of a sudden, people give a shit about Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny is my favorite cartoon character of all time. But something tells me there's not a lot of money in making movies and TV series about bugs. Unfortunately, he's from a bygone era. A source with knowledge of the situation says Hamada was upset at not being consulted and concerned about the impact on those involved in making the film on August the 2nd. It's very interesting he's not being consulted because he's just sitting in his office doing jack shit. He's not really the film president, the DC film president any longer anyway. Before the talent and their representatives had been informed of the decision, the New York Post broke the news that the film had been shelved. The Post reported that the film had low test scores and said a source described it as irredeemable. Wow. It's funny actually because yesterday the directors actually released a shot of Keaton in the Batman costume, Leslie Grace in the Batgirl costume, while one of the directors was in the middle. It was such a dark shot. Do you remember when Snyder used to do this? He used to give us bright shots, giving us the potential of his Justice League Snyder Cut. All I saw here was a darkened picture. It didn't inspire me to hashtag release Batgirl. In May, Warner Brothers Discovery cancelled another DC movie headed to the streamer, Wonder Twins, just after KJ Apa and Isabel May were cast as the leads. It's funny, isn't it? Woke Twitter weren't too worried about that cancellation, but when it suits their narrative, they'll scream for the next 1 or 2 weeks until the next thing. Remember how they were screaming, rightfully by the way, about the VFX teams at Marvel Studios? Where's the screaming? They've stopped already. Hamada assumed his role in 2018 during a fraught time for DC, which was struggling to find its footing after Justice League 2017 missed at the box office, and there was no clear path forward for its cinematic universe. During his tenure, Hamada has forged relationships with filmmakers such as Marvel favourite James Gunn, bringing him on board for the Suicide Squad 2021 and keeping him in the fold for Peacemaker, a spin-off for HBO Max, rather than strive for Marvel's closely interconnected universe or films. DC's properties under his watch were only loosely connected and sometimes took place in entirely separate universes such as Joker 2019, a film Hamada had no confidence in, which actually was one of the best DC films ever made and made over $1 billion, which overperformed did it, with more than $1 billion at the box office and earned Joaquin Phoenix a Best Actor Oscar. And Matt Reeves' The Batman 2022, which brought in, 700 million globally, a strong figure for the pandemic. Well, it was what we were well out of the pandemic, really, in truth. It was 750 million. It was a great start for Matt Reeves' franchise. But in terms of Hamada, bringing in Reeves, Hamada and Emmerich went to him to direct Ben Affleck's The Batman. Matt Reeves walked. He said, I'm not getting involved with this. I'm not taking somebody else's movie and destroying it. I'm going to be directing the actor. We're going to argue. This isn't going to work. I want to do my own thing. I'm gone. So quite rightly, they allowed him to do that. They betrayed Ben Affleck's Batman movie. They betrayed Ben Affleck because this has been the thing from day one, this civil war between Snyder and the Hamadaverse. I don't think either side has conducted themselves very, very well. And as an intelligent business manager, I do think Zaslav has to get his hammer and say no more. We need a fresh start. We need to reboot the whole thing, just like when you unplug your router when it's not working and you put it back in and it's all fresh and it's all fresh information going in there. You don't have any of the toxins going in anymore. Previous to DC Films, Hamada was an executive VP production at New Line, where he oversaw the junior label's hugely successful horror franchise, The Conjuring, as well as its 2017, which made its 701 million at the box office. So, very, very interesting. Hamada's not happy. He shouldn't be happy. Why would he be happy? He greenlit Batgirl. He agreed with these directors. Going to Batgirl and the outrage, let's ask a question of these directors. They were recruited to make a Batgirl movie they knew would be on HBO Max. They weren't given 90 million. It went to 90 million because of pandemic delays. They knew they were only getting 70 million for a Bat family movie, for a Batgirl movie. Didn't they think for a minute, as directors, how the fuck can we make a good movie with 70 million? They just wanted to take the gig, right? They wanted the allure of making a DCEU movie. They were arrogant enough to think they could do something special with 70 million. So Zaslav's right. This film's a mess. But if he's so worried about the quality of this film, why didn't he give these two lads 200 million to make a theatrical Batgirl movie? What this means is that he's not as... Look, this film clearly couldn't be released. Whatever, the woke mob say on Twitter. But all he had to do was give them a budget, a big budget, but he don't believe in this movie, he don't believe in Batgirl, and he doesn't believe in Leslie Grace as Batgirl. These are the facts, and the woke mob on Twitter are right about that. That says something, regrettably, about David Zaslav. But when a company is in financial meltdown, they have to sell the things that are going to make them instant money, instantly. And Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, even Aquaman can bring you a lot more money than Batgirl. But I believe in Batgirl in the comic books. Batgirl's a great character. I know many Batgirl fans that are gutted about this, but what I've tried to educate them about is this movie would have destroyed the Batgirl brand. It's better that this movie wasn't released. But you could have used Batgirl to build the Bat family. Something that's never been done in the DCEU or live action movies. This could have been the beginning of a new franchise. You could have kicked off a new DC live action universe by starting with her and even Blue Beetle. As I say, we don't know what's going to happen with that movie. But he doesn't believe in the character. He doesn't believe that Batgirl starring Leslie Grace, no matter how much money he throws at her, is going to work. And that, my friends, is the fact of the story. Kevin Feige, James Gunn and Edgar Wright reached out to Batgirl directors after Warner Brothers axed their film. We'll get into it, but first, where were these people when Snyder was removed from Justice League when a studio lied, used the death of the man's daughter as a reason for him walking away from the movie. Where were these people? Where were these people last week when VFX VFX artists were coming out saying how Marvel and Disney had treated them? Where were these people? But when it worked for their reputation, they come out. Think about this for a minute. The directors of Batgirl have come out and posted the email from Kevin Feige so they can say, you see, we're in the right here. You're not. You agreed to make a cheap movie that you couldn't make. It's as simple as that. You, my friends, are part of the problem. Basically, Zaslav was right to cancel this movie. What I'm saying on the other side of the conversation is he could have thrown more money at them to make a better movie. But the deeper question is, are these two lads capable of making a great Batgirl movie? Now, I think they made a good Bad Boys for Life, but are they as good as we think they are? Clearly, David Zaslav doesn't think so. So let's get into this propaganda. Batgirl co-director Adil El Arbi revealed on Instagram that several high-profile Hollywood names have reached out to him and fellow Batgirl director Billa Fallah. In the aftermath of Warner Brothers shelving their comic book movie, the studio announced August the 2nd that the $90 million Batgirl film would not be released in theatres or on HBO Max despite already being shot. Arby shared an email that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige sent him and Fallah in the aftermath of the film's cancellation. The Batgirl directors helmed 2 episodes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe series Ms. Marvel, which hardly is covered in praise by the right people, the fans, by the way. We mustn't listen to what critics say. My friends, I had to reach out and let you know we are all thinking about you both, Feige wrote. Because of the wonderful news about the wedding, congrats, and the disappointing news about Batgirl. Very proud of you guys and all the amazing work you do, and particularly Miss Marvel, of course. Can't wait to see what is next for you. Hope to see you soon. So, this would have been more effective if Feige offered them a job. He ain't going to do that. In addition to Miss Marvel, the 2 filmmakers also made a name for themselves in Hollywood as the directors of Bad Boys for Life, the Will Smith and Martin Lawrence starring action movie that out-earned the first 2 Bad Boy movies with $206 million at the US box office. But if you actually bring the first 2 Bad Boys movies, in today's financial climate, they actually made more than Bad Boys for Life, but they're spinning the narrative, of course. With $206 million at the US box office and $426 million worldwide, Feige was hardly the only A-list name who reached out to the filmmakers. Thanks for all the messages of support all over the world, Arby wrote on Instagram. Shout out directors Edgar Wright. Of course, Edgar Wright was going to come out. And James Gunn, your kind words and experience mean a lot and help us through the difficult period. And it is a difficult period for them, but that's life. It's not like they're going hungry, is it? Wright has experienced getting a comic book tentpole stripped away from him as he developed Ant-Man at Marvel for years before exiting the project before filming due to creative differences. Now this is interesting because he was fired by Feige, right? Edgar Wright was fired by Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige is sending an email trying to look like the better guy than Zaslav. You've done exactly the same thing, my friend. You shelved that man's movie before it even happened. Think about that for a minute. Think about the hypocrisy. Gunn, meanwhile, has worked for both Warner Brothers DC, The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and Disney Marvel, 3 Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which is the same line Arby and Fallah was set to cross by going from Miss Marvel to Batgirl. The filmmakers issued their own statement on the film shelving a day after the news hit, writing they were saddened and shocked. The duo add, we still can't believe it. Are you really surprised that your film was shelved, right? You know it was bad. You know you didn't have enough money to make a good movie. You know that. Why are you pretending you're surprised by this decision? As directors, it is critical that our work be shown to audiences, not if it's crap. And while the film was far from finished, we wish that fans all over the world would have had the opportunity to see and embrace the final film themselves. Maybe one day they will, inshallah. Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav has defended the decision, The studio is taking a write-down on Batgirl by not releasing it after it was decided the movie was not big enough for a theatrical release and simply too pricey for streaming. Where are we? Yeah. It jumped a bit there, my apologies. We're not going to launch a movie until it's ready, Zaslav said during the company's Q2 earnings call. When asked directly about Batgirl getting the X, we're not going to launch a movie to make a quarter. We're not going to put a movie out unless we believe in it. You see, they didn't believe in that movie. They didn't believe in the movie, and they don't believe in Batgirl herself. Zaslav then cited his previously reported goal of putting together a team with a 10-year plan focusing just on DC, similar to the approach Disney has taken with Marvel Studios as run by Feige. But he did not announce who would be heading that team. These are brands that are known everywhere in the world, he said, of the DC characters. And as part of that, we're going to focus on quality. DC is something we think we could make better, and we're focused on it now. So let me ask you a question. Should DC Studios, the newly formed DC Studios, have one head, like with Marvel Studios? Or should we just have a team? Isn't it better to have loads of different voices with different views giving out their ideas, rather than one dictator? That's how Marvel Studios is run. If he don't like what a director's done, he shoots it down. We just were talking about Edgar Wright. So isn't it better to have more voices with no head? Maybe it's better to have, many people running this new studio. We'll see what he's going to do. It does look like he's going to appoint a president of this new studio. If I was a betting man, he's going to look for someone who's been a studio head in the past. So it might not be a big bankable name. We'll have to see what happens. I think Zaslav is making some very hard but right decisions. A lot of people are going to be upset. And if you think the woke Twitter mob are upset about Batgirl, if he cancels Blue Beetle, then the shit really is going to hit the proverbial fan. And finally today, there's been a lot of hot takes full of misinformation from woke Twitter. One of them has been that this 10-year plan is just another version of the old plan. That we've had 10-year plans before. We never have. Yes, there was a slate after 2013's Man of Steel. That's true. That mostly never came to be. But there's never been a proper fleshed out plan. And this is what David Zaslav wants from his new DC Studios team. As I say, this is a business manager who's responsible for one of the most successful streaming platforms globally in Discovery Plus, and the woke Twitter mob making fun of kind of bringing together Discovery Plus and HBO Max. The HBO Max is not being deleted, but it will be merged with Discovery Plus. They will be one brand new streaming service with variety. This was always going to happen, everyone. You've got two huge streaming platforms with great IPs and, kind of reality-based content. You can make fun of Discovery Plus as much as you want, but you're making fun of yourselves because David Zaslav made that service very successful. He will make Warner Brothers successful. But Warner Brothers right now are in financial implosion and they have to make the right decisions and they have to release big movies. And this is why they're focusing on theatrical, because theatrical brings in the money. But this isn't a quick fix. David Zaslav doesn't have a magic wand. He's going to upset a lot of people with his decisions. This is a blue touch paper moment for DC and WB, because I think the decisions he makes going forward will not be about identity politics, will not be about social justice. They'll be about making money because they can't afford to do anything else. So I support David Zaslav in his huge decisions, but there's no question about it. He's still going to make big decisions that are going to upset some of you out there and make some of you very, very happy. I have no idea what the plan is. I don't know what's going to happen to the existing universe. But for me personally, it will be a great idea to burn the DCEU alive and start again. This has been Movies TV Mad with my Saturday show. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you for Sunday's show. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.